Good morning. It is Wednesday, December 28th. I'm Abby Huntsman in for Ainsley Earhart this morning. We begin with a Fox News alert. The White House says it wasn't me. The Obama administration again denying its involvement in that anti-Israel resolution. As Secretary of State John Kerry is set to make a speech that could make tensions a whole lot worse.
And Jill Stein isn't the only one refusing to give up on the 2016 election. Jill Stein just will not go away. Michael Moore says he has a 5-step plan to get President-elect Trump kicked out of the White House. I'm sure it's a doozy.
He's not even there yet. And this 6-year-old kid might be a genius. She cracked her mom's smartphone to spend hundreds of dollars on games by using her mom's fingerprint while she was sleeping. So what happened when mom found out? We'll ask them live this hour, because mornings are better with your thumbprints.
I think we can solve it without offending America.
So I think that's a good way to go. So this is exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna analyze this as best we can.
We are going to get
later
the story.
on in the show, those women on that couch in that basement will be appearing live with us. And if we can't crack it, they're going to crack it.
Finally,
so they're going to be sitting on the couch just like in that photo.
Yeah, America needs to know. I mean, this is a viral video, a photo that no one can figure out. They're going to solve it for us.
Send us what you think. Where are those legs? Why are they missing? We want to know your thoughts. See if any of you are right about this.
It'll be on our website or at our Facebook page. Take a look at it.
We should jack it up just a little bit more, though, and get Kilmeade to Skype in and maybe talk directly to the women.
I think he's going to get us all in trouble.
Let's not.
We might get in trouble. Yeah.
Brian already made his contribution to that.
It was enough.
Leave it right there. Yeah.
Well, this story about the United Nations and talking about real big stories and actual news is interesting in terms of the anti-Israeli resolution that passed last Friday. Every day there's been a new development, and a huge one is coming today in terms of Secretary of State John Kerry giving this speech 11 a.m. Eastern from the State Department, where he is going to lay out sort of the Obama administration's vision for Mideast peace. Although after what happened last Friday, how in the world can you come up with Mideast peace now? You can argue that it's gotten a lot harder because of what happened in terms of the Israel bashing that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, the speculation is that John Kerry's speech, which has been moved up, is effectively going to double down on the contours of this resolution, which most see as anti-Israeli, but they probably think is laying the groundwork for some potential hypothetical peace deal. But they're also denying involvement. They're denying that they were a part of the abstention in this UN vote that was so anti-Israel. And this is the State Department spokesman Mike Toner yesterday. Mark Toner, excuse me, talking about how they were not involved. Take a listen. We'll chat about it.
The notion that the United States was the driving force behind this resolution, that's just not true. The United States did not draft this resolution, nor did it put it forward. We also made clear at every conversation, that the president would make the final decision and that he would have to review the final text before making his final decision. So the idea that this was, again, pre-cooked or that we had agreed upon the text weeks in advance is just not accurate.
So the reason they're now on the defense, this all comes from Israel saying this was cooked up from the very beginning. You have President Obama actually leading this charge.
That was like a tortured non-denial. And when you hang it on, we weren't involved in the specific
We didn't technically write it.
Okay, so we weren't involved in the language, but there's a report this morning saying Vice President Biden was on the phone, for example, calling the Ukrainians saying, let's get this going, guys. Now, the White House hasn't commented on that, but
that's interesting.
It's when you
But Israel has.
Israel has, because we had David Keyes on last night on the Kelly File, the spokesman for the Israeli Prime Minister, further saying that they did have proof about this. Here's what he said.
We know that there was a deep collusion between the Obama administration and the Palestinians in order to push this United Nations Security Council resolution forward. I don't think that everything that I know can be shared on TV or can be shared with a global audience. I want to explain just very briefly why it's so dangerous, because it actually preempts negotiations. It tries to give the Palestinians everything they want up front. The idea that the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem, the Western Wall, is occupied territory. I mean, what if somebody brought a Security Council resolution saying the heart of Washington was occupied territory, or the London Bridge was occupied territory?
You look at what the State Department says, which is this convoluted quasi-denial, and then you hear all these Israeli spokesmen saying, we've got evidence and we're going to prove it.
Bang, bang.
And they know, because they understand how serious this is. This isn't just a UN resolution on paper in New York City. This is land and the existence of a country. We've got a map of Israel and the pre-1967 borders, of course. Israel had to fight for its existence for decades, surrounded by enemies like Egypt and Syria and Jordan. The pre-67 borders make Israel extremely vulnerable, giving away critical land, including portions of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, but include the old city and the actual Temple Mount and the Western Wall, the holiest sites of Judaism, and the Golan Heights there in the north. That's not academic. If they don't hold that, the huge portions of their entire country are under siege.
Well, and now it sparked this huge debate more broadly about the UN and what the purpose of the UN is, and do they have something against Israel specifically? This was really interesting. One of our producers who covers the UN, he emailed us this information yesterday. He said just a snapshot over the past year that the UN has adopted 20 anti-Israel resolutions, and you compare that to just 4 for the rest of that entire year. One was North Korea, one was Syria, one for Iran, and one for Russia. Just look at that. That is a snapshot of just this past year, what they have been focused on.
20 times you're going to denounce Israel, and once you're going to announce Iran, the big state sponsor of terror. Give me a break.
Just let that marinate for a second. Look at those numbers. Put that back up if you can. 20 anti-Israel resolutions at the United Nations, which we spend billions on every year. The world is on fire. Syria, Aleppo, ISIS, North Korea, Russia is invading Ukraine. Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. 20 against Israel. It tells you this is not an organization.
Because
the UN is not an organization that exists anymore to educate and healthcare. It exists to bash the West, and Israel being the sort of canary in the coal mine, the easiest target for them. And if Israel doesn't have the U.S., they've got no guarantor.
And coming out of that UN action, John Kerry giving this big speech today. Mark Thiessen last night on the Kelly File pointed out, with 3 weeks to go, why is the administration doing that? 3 years ago, they could have actually been taking some of the hard steps to get us closer to peace. Instead, on the way out the door.
You know what I think, Ed? I think all of this could backfire because obviously underneath it all, it is politics. And you had, as Mike Huckabee said, I think was the right thing. He said this was basically President Obama giving the big middle finger as he's walking out the door to Israel. You could see President-elect Donald Trump doubling down even when it comes to strengthen our relationship with Israel and his friendship with Benjamin Netanyahu. This could backfire.
You could see the embassy literally moving to Jerusalem, which would have a lot of ripple effects. But why now? I think they were counting on Hillary Clinton. They were counting on a slow roll extension of their policies, moving more and more toward the pro-Palestinian stance, distance from Israel.
Out a little bit.
Of course they're acting out. They're going, crap, we have to do all the things now.
You made the interesting point. Had Hillary Clinton won this election,
they wouldn't be throwing these rhetorical bombs right now at Israel. Instead, they'd be trying to set the table. So what they're doing is they're trying to leave this big mess for Donald Trump.
I think Donald Trump's going to do a very nice job cleaning that up.
We'll see what John Kerry has to say later today. But let's go over to Lisa Booth.
I can't wait to hear what John Kerry, please educate me on the Middle East. Lisa, educate the world on our headlines.
I will do my best. A Fox News alert. 2 strong earthquakes rattling across state lines overnight. The first quake was reported near the Nevada-California state line. The second happened just minutes later. They could be felt as far away as Sacramento and Carson City. So far, there are no reports of major damage or injuries. Meanwhile, tributes are pouring in as Star Wars fans mourn the loss of their princess. Governor talk. We're calling on anti-Trumpers to get the president-elect kicked out of the White House. The controversial liberal filmmaker claiming he knows just how to do it, and he laid out the steps on his Facebook page. They are making your presence known, writing to the DNC, forming a rapid response team to go to the inauguration protest, and running for office. I love this girl. And meet the Dallas Cowboys fan who just got sweet revenge on her ex-fiance. The woman holding up a sign that says, "My fiance dumped me in a text message. He should have waited until after Christmas." Well, that's because she bought him tickets to Monday night's game between the Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. She used the tickets anyways and watched her team win big, 42-21. And those are your headlines.
I love that story. Talk about revenge, and now it's all over national
Well, isn't it
television.
hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? That's what they say.
Just wants the tickets.
Love it. Thank you, Lisa.
The Cowboys
Guys.
won.
Thanks.
All right, so yesterday there was a scare at Trump Tower. We saw it all blowing up
Yeah.
on our phones, that there was an evacuation taking place. And of course, like everything else today, it turned political.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't, but it does.
And it shouldn't, because there were people running from Trump Tower screaming, and I think we can hear some of that, because they were worried that there was an actual bomb.
It ended up being a backpack that was just full of toys at the end of the day. But
in real
still, you
time,
don't
they
know
didn't
what
know
that
that.
is.
Of course, this is where the president-elect lives and where they're conducting the transition. So Sean Spicer went to Twitter afterwards to clarify, and he said, back to work here at Trump Tower after a false alarm, letting people know, thanks NYPD.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It's a very simple thanks of appreciation. But Eric Phillips with Mayor de Blasio here tweeted back to Spicer, no problem. We'll send you the bill. Because remember, there was this fight about overtime pay and whatnot. And so Dan Scavino, who handles social media, basically tweeted back and said, you are an embarrassment to the mayor's office and the amazing NYPD, saying, how could you make a joke about the NYPD responding quickly to this?
Well, and you could see it as a joke, because, I mean, maybe it was, but the way that de Blasio's office had treated the Trump transition so far shows you how much animosity they have and how spiteful they've been. So it doesn't look like a joke.
Also, just a lack of respect, you
Yeah.
think, from Mayor de Blasio's office. Whether you agree with Mr. Trump's policies or not, he is the next president of the United States. And regardless of your political affiliation, there is a certain amount of respect I think everyone should hold for that office.
And the people running from Trump Tower may or may not have had anything to do with Donald Trump. There have been people who were shopping there.
Yeah.
They might